Hi, thanks for coming to the marsh tonight. And by the marsh, I mean my house and the houses of the people you're going to be watching performing tonight. We've been gathering together in this Zoom space and trying to figure out what to say in times like these.
Hmm.
So I welcome you, and what you're about to see is new work. So that's a little bit of a miracle. And without further ado, I want to introduce our first performer of the evening, Hank Greenspan.
I'm the guy. I'm the guy. Maybe you know that. Maybe some of you know that I'm the guy. I'm Joey from the Bronx. You heard of Joey from the Bronx? Maybe not. Just as well. I don't go downtown much anymore. Before Gina passed, sometimes we go down to Tiffany's just to look. I'd say, Gina, if I could afford it, I'd get you one of those rings, diamond, and I would. You're the guy, she'd say. I wish I could have. Gina was Queen of the Bronx. And I worked at the Central Park Zoo, the monkeys. I loved it. We were close, me and the monkeys, not just me. Another guy there read the newspaper to the monkeys every morning. Truly, they're smart. Maybe the monkeys can figure it out. I mean, what's going on? I can't figure it out, even though I'm the guy. I'm down at the zoo. Just visiting after I retired, seeing my buds, my monkey buds, the old gang. After that, I walk up Fifth Avenue to 59th Street to get the train back to the Bronx. And I'm just walking. And suddenly I hear this thing. I hear this thing go off. I don't know. Sounds like a firecracker. I don't know. And then I see blood on my arm, on my hand. I think I have a nosebleed, something like that. And I reach up and I touch my nose and yeah, I'm bleeding. Not from my nose, higher up. It's like somewhere on my head. I'm bleeding from somewhere on my head. Next thing, I'm on the ground. And people, they're walking around me and they're saying, he's the guy, he's the guy. What guy, I'm asking? What guy? What guy? You're the guy, you're the guy. You're the guy, they say. You're the guy that Trump shot on Fifth Avenue. You're the guy. I'm the guy. Tell you the truth, I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, I'm not political. I'm Joey from the Bronx, and suddenly I'm flat out on Fifth Avenue. Sort of, what do you call it? EKG, the EMT. Ambulance comes and they put me on a thing, a stretcher thing, and they say they're taking me up to Mount Sinai. I'm not feeling too bad, really. So I say, like Moses, Mount Sinai. Get it? Because I'm the guy. They laugh. They say, Joey, if you can make a stupid joke like that, you're probably fine. It's probably just a flesh wound. And I'm thinking, I'm not stupid. Where else would a wound be? I didn't say anything because they're professionals, medical professionals, and I'm just a guy. So up in Mount Sinai, I meet Dr. Goodman, Dr. Susan Goodman. Very nice lady. She says, first thing she says, so you're the guy. Apparently, I say it gets around. Anyway, she thinks I'm fine. Looks like a flesh wound. I didn't say anything smart ass, but they gave me an X-ray, a MIT, whatever that thing in a tube. So I'm in a tube. I'm in a tube. And I have to tell you something. I kind of fell asleep. I mean, even though the tube is making a racket, I fall asleep. And I have this dream. The Publishers Clearinghouse thing. Gina and I used to play it because if we won, I could buy her something from Tiffany's. Something great. So in the dream, the prize patrol, maybe 6 people carrying balloons and this giant check 6 feet long, and they're at the door of Trump's apartment. And they ring the bell, and Malunkia or whatever her name answers, and they all yell, "Surprise!" And Malunkia says she's not feeling well. Can they go away? "It's for Donald," they say. And she says, Malunkia says, "He's not here. He's downstairs shooting someone on Fifth Avenue." Then I wake up when a tube starts pushing me out. Dr. Goodman comes in and she says, "Everything looks okay, just a graze." She puts some stitches in my head. She says I should go home and rest. No driving, no heavy machinery, don't sign important documents. And I'm thinking, driving in New York? And the heaviest machinery I have is a toaster oven. It's a big one. And the last important document I signed was when Publishers Clearinghouse asked me, "After we win the 10 million, do we want a lump sum or monthly installments?" The lump sum, of course. In a crazy world like this, you don't want to wait around. Anything can happen. You go for the lump. And then the press, newspapers, TV, radio. "You're the guy. You're the guy." Questions, questions. Will this change my vote? Do I support whatever? Gun control? Hey, I'm just walking to the train. I'm not a political person. Mostly I support the Yankees. Did Trump call you? Did he apologize? No, he didn't call me. He sent me a red hat. This is true. And I tell him he already gave me a red hat. Get it? I get all these calls. Everybody wants to talk with me because I'm the guy. Ari Melber wants to talk with me. Who the hell is Ari Melber? And Seth Meyers, whom I never heard of, and The View, which I think is for girls, and someone from Jimmy Kimmel Live. They want to have me on the show. Now, him I heard of because Gina used to watch that show, unless the Yankees went late. Who are these people? This much I know. They're not professionals. After I get out of the hospital, I go home. Gina's sister, Anna, and her husband, Carl, invite me to dinner. They live in a neighborhood. They want to be sure I'm okay. And they have a couple of kids, great kids. Francis, he's named for the Pope, and Alexa, who I think is named for some computer thing. So there, I'm Uncle Joey. Even though the kids are in their 30s, I'm still Uncle Joey. It always feels like home. Gina had some kind of cysts, so we couldn't have kids of our own. She had a lot of surgeries. We tried. It never worked out. Gina thought that's why I was so close with the monkeys. Like they were my kids. It could be. It could be. She was a smart woman. Even with the surgeries, the cyst became cancer. That's how Gina died. Anyway, Trump is elected. So here's this guy who shot me on Fifth Avenue for no reason, kind of a sport, like bass fishing, and he gets to be president? Oh no. I mean, I did have a weird dream, not the prize patrol thing. I'm in New York. I know it's New York, but there's nothing I recognize. I can't get oriented. The people are nice, but personally, I'm lost. And I'm looking around, and I'm thinking, maybe, maybe a lot of people are lost. A week later, I'm downtown again. Not a dream. I went to visit the monkeys and my people friends at the zoo. Everybody is excited to see me. The monkeys are jumping up and down, and someone giving me high fives, truly, which is not that high for a monkey, but it was like I'm a normal person again before the whole thing started in the zoo. I'm still Joey. I'm not the guy. But when I leave to get the train, I have to walk by the tower. And there's this big demonstration going on, a protest thing. And somebody recognizes me. He's saying, "He's the guy. He's the guy." They must have seen me in the papers or something. I try to get out of there. I don't want to be the guy. But they won't stop. "He's the guy. He's the guy." They want me to speak to the crowd. I mean, they're insisting on it. Okay. Okay, I say. Finally, I say, okay. But personal things, not big political things. It's just some stories. They say, yeah, good, great. Just a few stories. So I'm up on a platform and there's a microphone, which I'd never used before. And they say, you got to stay close to the mic. And I'm thinking, what kind of microphone if you have to stay so close to it? But I'm not technical in that way. So I start out, I say, yeah, I'm the guy. I'm not a political person, but people just said, tell a few stories, a few minutes, tell us how you're doing, what you're thinking. So that's how I started. And I said, well, tell you the truth, I'm speaking close to the mic. I feel kind of lost at times. I mean, that's the truth. I worked at the zoo. Like some of you know, I like to go back to the zoo because my friends are there. And I visit family, my wife's sister and her family. I go there. They have a couple of kids. Francis, like the Pope. He became a priest, yeah? Which is a fit, yeah? And Alexa. They're great. Alexa helped me a lot to take care of my wife, Gina. When Gina was dying of cancer, maybe that's why Alexa went into nursing. She loves doing this, and she's good at it. She was #1 in her class in nursing school. And this was at Mount Sinai. Maybe you know, that's where they took me after Trump shot me. It's a great place. Anyway, Alexa got a job at the Bronx VA. She could have gone anywhere. Everyone wanted to hire her, but she wanted to live at home, save some money, be with family. And she worked a lot with combat vets from Iraq and Afghanistan. And she told me a lot of them had that thing, the PTSD, I think, where they're scared all the time. It comes back to them, flashbacks, and they get lost in it. I don't have that, flashbacks. But for them, I guess they lost part of their minds. I guess they never really totally came home. Yeah, never totally home. And Alexa tells me that now she is scared a lot. I mean, she's solid like she always was. She's a rock. But she lost the job. They fired her, because she's a federal worker. She was part of the big cuts at the VA. She even told me, and this I found hard. She even told me that the guy who planned the firings actually wrote that this was the plan, not just fire people, but put them in trauma, stun them. Dedicated people. She told me that's actually what he wrote, traumatize the federal workers. Which I find, I mean, she's my niece, family. I love her. She took care of Gina like a saint. And when I heard this, maybe this is harsh. Maybe it's not. When I heard this, I'm thinking, maybe Trump is not the only one of them who shoots people in the head. The crowd had applauded. Yeah, okay. Tell you the truth, I wasn't planning. It just came out. But okay. Tell you the truth, I think I was telling the truth. Like all of us are what? Nobody's safe. Anyone can be shot or traumatized or whatever they want to do to us. I didn't say that to the crowd, but I also talked about my friend Jonas, who works at the zoo. He told us that's a Spanish name for Jonah. So we called him Whalebait, Jonah. Great guy. He's from Venezuela, like Miguel Cabrera and a lot of the best baseball players. Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico are first for ball players, and then Venezuela. But he's an American citizen, born in this country. And one day, he didn't come to work. He's just gone. Just gone. Nobody knows. Nobody thinks he's in the whale. I finished up. Said, no, I told you a couple of stories. Now I got to get home. How about you? How was speaking up? Someone shouted from the crowd. Me? Okay, just a flesh wound. I laughed. Apparently they'd heard that story. I said, I'm not a speaker. I don't do this. Crowds like this. Just being here, it scares me a little. I'm in a building. What happened? Not flashbacks. Like I said, I don't have that. I just remember the guy with me on the platform gave me a kind of hug, and he said, thank you. I'll help you get home. And I said, no, I'm fine. I'll be fine. I know where I am. I'll be okay. Everyone there was nice. Everyone wanted to help me. I saw a few of them had tears in their eyes when I was talking about Alexa and Jonas, even some of the guys. One guy said, I'd like to take you out for a beer. I just said, thank you. Still talk with Gina all the time. I know she's gone, but I talk with her, and I imagine what she'd say. In that way, she's still with me. I wanted to get home to tell her some of what happened. We had 2 chairs. We call them Lazy Boy and Lazy Girl. Big reclining chairs just for us to have a Campari at the end of the day or watch TV. She even watched a little of the Yankees with me. And when they're losing, I'd still say, Gina, come here. They need you for luck. Sometimes she did. And it worked. She knows. I imagine she knows it's hard for me to be alone. I tell her about Anna and Carl and Francis and Alexa and the monkeys, mostly happy things. She knows I was shot on Fifth Avenue, but I try to keep it light, even when it isn't. I guess I figure wherever she is, she knows. Maybe it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm thinking in heaven, people have bigger things to think about. Maybe they're not thinking much at all. They're just kind of floating, which is kind of the same thing. Sometimes I sing to her. We loved Simon and Garfunkel. She always said, I have a lousy voice, which I do, but I figure if I sing softly, it won't be as bad. And sometimes I just have to. After all that's going on, what I'm seeing, what I'm knowing. Gina, I'm lost, I said, though I know she was sleeping. I'm empty and aching. I think I know why. Counting the cars on the New Jersey Turnpike. We've all come to look for America. All come to look for America. Then I went into a bathroom. So, in my head, Gina wouldn't hear. I looked in the mirror and I said, quietly, just to myself in the mirror, I think we're at war.
Yay! Yay!
Thank you.
Peace.
Come on. It's October of 1968, and I am 9 3/4 years old. My mother is diagnosed with ovarian cancer. She's very weak and sick from her cancer treatments, so I become the caregiver for my 1-year-old sister, my 3-year-old brother, my 2 teenage brothers, and my mother. My father was never around. He said he couldn't stand to see my mother suffer. And none of our relatives came to help my mother. Her own mother said she was afraid she'd catch cancer from my mother. By May of 1969, my mother was in and out of the hospital. In December of 1969, she went to the hospital and she never came back. We could only talk to her on the phone. Life went on this way. I was glad that my mother went to the hospital because my mother would scream and cry because of the pain. And my sister would scream and cry because she wanted my mother. And I didn't know what to do. So sometimes I would just run out into the woods and I would scream and cry. June 1960. I'm 11 and a half years old. And I walk into the kitchen on this beautiful sunny morning, and Uncle Harry is sitting at our table eating a big slice of ham. Uncle Harry, what are you doing here? And where did you get that ham? Well, your mama died last night, and folks have been dropping off food all morning long. I don't believe you. What, about the ham? No, about Mommy dying. Why would I believe you? I haven't seen you in 3 years. Well, your Aunt Emma sent me. She said I should come over here and help out. Well, why didn't she come? She's Mommy's sister. Well, she doesn't trust me to look after our little ones. So here I am. I don't believe it. I can't believe that Mommy died. No, I don't believe it. Oh, honey, listen, your Mama Grace, she was one stubborn woman, and she fought that cancer like a fierce tiger. But that cancer just spread all over her body like an oil leak in your car. You can't stop it and you can't fix it, and then it's all over and your engine blows up and you're dead, just like your mama. Uncle Harry, that's crazy. Mama's not a car. Where's everybody? Well, Cousin Barb has your sister, and Uncle Ben took your brothers to get some funeral buds, and your daddy came in here about an hour ago, smelling like whiskey and perfume. And he said he had important business to take care of, and he skedaddled. Uncle Harry, who are those women talking? And what are they doing? Oh, that's your Aunt Henny and her sisters, and they're cleaning up, getting ready for the big dinner. What big dinner? Well, after the funeral, folks are going to bring all kinds of food, and they'll come over and have dinner for all the visitors. What visitors? It's going to be a big funeral because everybody's going to come to look at the 5 sad children. And the widowed ladies and the spinsters, they're going to come to eyeball your daddy and see if he will pick one of them to be your new mama. We don't need a new mama. Uncle Harry, I'm going to go see what these women are doing. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, look at this house. Oh, I can't believe how dirty it is. I would be so embarrassed for the people who are coming to see this mess. Did you see that pile of laundry? Oh, where are Grace's people? They should be here to help. Oh, Henny, you know they're not going to come help. You know, they never liked our brother Bill. They didn't think he was good enough for Grace. Henny, what's going to happen to these poor children? Alice, Bill will just have to grow up and be a responsible man and take care of these children. You've got 6 children of your own and a crippled husband. You can't take care of these children. Bill will just have to find himself a new mother for these children. What are you doing in my house? I have been taking care of my family since I was 9.5 years old. And now you come here. You never came around to help my mother. You were mean to my mother. Now you come here and you want to clean up the house. You want to clean up the house so that you look good. You want everybody to believe that you are the good, kind, caring aunties. Go home. I don't want you here. I hate you. I run into the woods and I scream and I cry. Uncle Harry was right. All these people have come from all over for the funeral. They're fussing over us, the 5 sad, motherless children. And my father is putting on the performance of his life, pretending he's the grieving husband. 2 weeks later, they're all gone. Everybody's gone. And we go back to living our life. I'm 11 and a half years old, and I'm continuing to take care of my brother and sister. My 2 brothers have gotten jobs for the summer with farmers, and they go out at night and have a good time. My father's never around. He gets dressed up, puts on his dandy clothes, and goes out to party at night and on the weekend. I'm bored and I'm lonely, and the only fun I have is to listen to rock and roll on the radio. And I have little dance parties with the little ones. Okay, kids, let's dance. Yeah. Okay. When I grow up, I am going to be a singer, and I will be on the radio. And I will be rich and famous, and I'll buy you all the toys you want and a big freezer full of ice cream. Yay! When the little ones go to bed, I listen to the Democratic convention on the radio. JFK is the nominee for president for the Democrats. I'm so excited. I wish I could vote. I can't, so I think I'll write him a letter. One day, Dandy Daddy, as I call him now, comes into the kitchen waving a piece of paper. Oh, hi, honey. Look at this. It's your mother's death benefit check. I know, I haven't been around much. I've just been so sad about your mother. But that's all going to change, really. Yes, I'm going to take this check to the bank. And when I come back, I'm going to bring each of you a big surprise and we'll celebrate. That bank must have been on another planet. And the big surprise was he never came back. 5 of us living on our own. My brothers had some money that they had saved from their summer jobs. We had some canned food in the cellar, and I had planted a little garden. It wasn't long before the money was gone. Our food supplies were getting low. The electricity was turned off. And now we're in survival mode. Become predators, looking for any means to stay alive. We didn't talk about it. We just functioned. Nobody came to help us, and we didn't ask for help. We were used to pretending that everything was okay. That's how we were raised. In November, we would take turns going to school, and we would steal other kids' lunches, scavenge in people's gardens, trap rabbits and squirrels. Have you ever eaten a squirrel? Oh, yeah. When Christmas vacation came, I was worried because school would be closed and there would be no more lunches. Christmas Eve, 1960, it's snowing and it's cold and we're all sick. I found some half-rotten apples, potatoes, and powdered milk in the back of the cellar. I am thinking about my grandfather, Tata. I used to hang out with him when I was little. He was half blind, so I would lead him around, and he would teach me things, practical things, how to do things. He was my best friend. Right before he died, he said, "Caroline, you are smart and you are brave. And no matter what happens in your life, you will always survive. And I will always be with you right here in your heart. Tata, I need your help right now." I hear noise outside and I look out the window and there are truck lights shining and two men are walking up the path. I open the door, we all crowd in the doorway. "Hey, turn on the lights." "We don't have any lights." The men come up and they see us. Dirty, skinny, sick orphans. "Where are your parents?" "We don't have any parents." They're staring at us. One of the men has tears coming down his face. They hand the boxes to my brothers and they turn to go and wait, thank you so much. You performed a miracle here tonight. Who sent you?" "We don't know." "Thank you, Tata. You saved us." The boxes had warm clothes, blankets, food, candy. For the next 2 days, we feasted on all that good food. And the third day, the state police showed up and took us to the police department. They introduced us to a young man named Mr. Carter and told us that he was our social worker and that he would help us. A doctor came and examined us and gave us medicine. Mr. Carter tried to talk to my brothers. They wouldn't say anything. When it was my turn, I told him everything. "Mr. Carter, Uncle Ben is my father's boss. And he knew that my father has not been coming to work for 5 months. Why didn't he come check on us?" "I don't know." "What's going to happen to us now?" "Caroline, how old are you?" "I'll be 12 next month." "Girl, I can't believe it. You feisty. You survived all this stuff. Took care of your little brother and sister. Where'd you learn how to do that?" Mr. Carter was making phone calls and the police fed us and took care of us. Oh, there's Uncle Ben and Aunt Henny. They don't look at me or any of us. They're taking my little brother and my sister and they don't even say goodbye. The farmers that work for my brother, that my brothers work for, they took them. My brothers didn't say goodbye. "Hey, Caroline, you ready to go?" "Where, Mr. Carter?" "Come on, we're going in the car. We're going to your new home." Wow, it's a group home, 7 other girls, house parents, Tim and Linda, and you'll have your own room. You go to school. You'll have good food and clothes that fit you. And as long as you behave yourself and you follow the rules, you can stay there till you're 18. Wow, where's this new home? Well, it's in Philadelphia. I've never been to a city before. Do they have a radio? Oh, yeah. A TV? Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. I fell asleep. "Hey, Caroline, wake up. We're home." Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at this place. It's a huge mansion and it's beautiful. I'm introduced to Tim and Linda and an older girl named Irene. "Hi, Caroline. I'm going to take you and show you around, take you to your room." "Hi, Irene. So, how old are you, Caroline? I'm going to be 12 next month. How old are you, Irene? Well, I just turned 18, and when you are 18, you have to leave. So I'm going to be leaving pretty soon. Oh, wow. Look at this beautiful wood banister. Oh, it's so smooth and beautiful. Yeah, you're going to get to know that wood really well. What? Okay, here's your room. Oh my God, it's big. It's so big. And the bed is really comfy. And there's a bathroom, and it's got a bathtub. A bathtub. Okay, Caroline, you must be exhausted. So why don't you take a bath? And Linda left you some pajamas, and she'll bring you something to eat. I don't want to get out of the bathtub. It is heavenly. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. Linda comes and she brings me some food, and she tells me that the doctor said I cannot go to school yet, that I have to get better and I have to get stronger. And so and I can't meet the other girls until a few days from now. And so now I just rest, I eat, I sleep, I read books, and I listen to the radio. A few days later, I meet the other girls. They don't say anything. It's so quiet. Irene, is this normal? I mean, I figured they would ask me a lot of questions and there would be a lot of chatter. I spend a lot of time in Irene's room where she talks and braids my hair. Caroline, has Tim come to your room at night? No. Why would he? Well, Tim does bad things to the girls. So I want you to start pushing your dresser against the door at night. And if Tim comes, don't let him in. Okay. The next week, Irene moved out. And a couple of days later, I turned 12. Linda baked me a cake, and Tim gave me a necklace. But when he put it on, oh, his fingers were like rubbing my neck, and it was so creepy. A couple nights later, knocking on the door. Caroline, let me in. I just want to come and comfort you. I know you're sad, and I know you miss Irene. Just let me in. I didn't do it. After that, he would come every night, and during the daytime, he would give me extra chores to do. Polishing that wood banister was one. But now I'm outside shoveling snow, and I hear a knock on the window, and I look up, and Tim is standing in the window naked, and he's jerking on his penis, and he's pointing at me. After dinner, I went up to my room, put on all the clothes that I could fit, went up to Irene's old room, climbed down the fire escape, and ran as fast as I could to the bus station. The police picked me up, took me. The next morning, they took me to juvenile court. I'm sitting in a room with Mr. Carter. I told him what Tim did. Mr. Carter looks at me. Caroline, I can't believe what you've done, that you run away. Girl, you had a really good gig. I busted my balls to get you this place. And what do? You messed it all up. But Mr. Carter, Tim is doing bad things to the girls. Well, none of those other girls complained. And besides, if they did, who's going to believe them? We went into the courtroom. There's a lady judge. And the lady judge has asked Tim if the allegations are true. No, Your Honor, I would never do anything like that. She's a liar. She makes things up. She has a very vivid imagination. Linda says, Your Honor, you know, Caroline's just impossible. She never follows the rules. You know, she sasses back and she doesn't get along with the other girls. Mr. Carter, what are we going to do with Caroline? Your Honor, I don't know. Her own people don't want her. She can't go back to the group home. And no other foster home is going to take her. Your Honor, she's a runaway. She is a flight risk. Mr. Carter, is she dangerous? I don't know, Your Honor. Okay, after hearing the testimony here today, I'm making a decision. Caroline, you are incorrigible, out of control. I am sending you to the girls' correction facility indefinitely. Court dismissed. Incorrigible? I don't know what that means. Do any of you?
Yay. Yay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I just noted the title. It's Seeking Rip Van Winkle. I'm having a great deal of difficulty living with this woman who returned from Palestine in April. Somehow every conversation works around to, I was in Palestine in April and I left half my heart there. Her endless daily check-ins with the group chat of the wonderful group of people that she was there with in Palestine. Most of them, in fact, all of them, Brits and Europeans, most of them marching in for Palestine in huge demonstrations in London and Glasgow and Munich. And Nancy wishes that she could be there with them. She misses that camaraderie, and her numerous webinars are an attempt to capture some little part of that connection and mutual activism. Yes, Nancy has done a few normal things since she's been home, like celebrating her dreaded 75th birthday. She let her good friend Lou plan a dinner party with another couple, and it went well. But Lou keeps saying to her, you are not the same person that you were before Palestine. And other friends say the same. And no, I am not the same person. I am definitely not. Every single day, Nancy forces me to revisit something that we did in Palestine, something Palestinians who we met who were so loving and so generous in spite of the difficulty of their horrible occupation. Nancy's favorite story is walking in the narrow streets of Aida, a refugee camp in Bethlehem, a stone's throw from an Israeli police station that tear gases and abuses them continually. Aida, which was meant to be a temporary camp after the Nakba of 1948, and that it's turned into a very crowded, very unpleasant city 76 years later. But an amazing story going down one of the very narrow streets. All of a sudden, this big bag of beautiful cookies dropped from the second floor because the woman recognized our guide. Nancy doesn't have it in her personality to bake cookies in the midst of such devastation. But the gift of that was incredible. just to have that. Nancy, meanwhile, Nancy tells me that in the camp, in the food distribution sites in the Gazan camps, there now have been more Gazans murdered while they were waiting for food. The number murdered outnumbers those Israelis who were murdered on October 7th, a fact we are not being told. Lancet estimates that 200,000 have been killed, if you count all under the rubble, and that at least 60 to 70,000 of those are children. And on our TV news feeds every night, we see children with twig-like legs starving, and we are not forcing Israel to release the trucks sitting at the Egyptian border. And meanwhile, in July, Mr. Trump authorized the burning of 500 tons of food, enough to feed 27,000 children. Food that was in USAID sites, food to be released by USAID until Trump killed USAID. And the United Nations knew that that food was there, and they were begging Trump to let them distribute it before it rotted. Trump waited till it rotted and burned it last month. 27,000 children from our slums to Gaza to Sudan could have been fed. And meanwhile, 6 Al Jazeera journalists were brutally assassinated, shot into the tent, a tent in North Gaza that was clearly marked with press on all sides of the tent. Then, so that brings to the number 186 journalists murdered in Gaza. That tiny little area, more journalists murdered than have been murdered in all the major wars of the 20th century. And in our own country, Mario Guevara, a 20-year journalist working on a perfectly valid work permit, was arrested in Atlanta on June 7th because he was filming a violent ICE raid, and now he's in an ICE prison. And it appears the only way he will get out is if he promises never to do that kind of filming again. Is journalists murdered in Gaza, arrested in the United States? What is it that Donnie and Bibi don't want us to know? Maybe one thing is they don't want us to know that the crime rate is way down in the DC, in the District of Columbia. So troops are now there, Trump occupying DC just as Israel occupies Palestine. I'm horrified. And in the midst of all this horror, Nancy is struck with the worst flu of her life. But she's so caught in this, what really is it worth, that it's 12 hours before she realizes how sick she is. Then she sleeps for 25 some hours. And in the next 2 days after that, 15 hours each day. She remembers how often when she first got back from Palestine that she would say, I know I can't have 20 years like Van Winkle. I don't need 20 years, but just a couple weeks to sleep off the world and totally escape it. Well, thanks to the flu, she had 11 days of a lot of sleep and a very nice Van Winkle impersonation. It's not just, but in the midst of that impersonation, on the third day of her sickness, she calls her longtime friend Andrea, who lived in Mendocino and is now moved to a very upscale retirement place. You wouldn't be in this situation, Andrea. They check on you every single morning and you'd have a doctor already seeing you. You made such a good choice. I know I did, Nancy, but it was a hell of a lot of work. And I hate to say it, but I didn't have a fraction of the books and the stuff that you have. I know it, Annie. I know I've got way too much stuff, and I don't know if I could even begin to downsize the way you have. Well, I'd love it if you moved here, if you ever decide that you can. When Nancy hangs up the phone, she looks out the window of the art room where she's sitting and focuses on all the beautiful greenery and bushes and around her woodshed and all the huge redwood trees behind it. She has a view like this of trees and privacy from every one of her 22 windows. And she thinks of Andrea's 2 pathetic windows. Pathetic if you're looking for trees and privacy, not pathetic if you're looking for what Andrea has for her health situation. And yes, oh, the food is wonderful. 3 meals a day that you can just go down and be served like you're in a fine restaurant. None of the shopping and cooking that Nancy detests. But Nancy's forgetting that her books alone would fill every inch of Andrea's apartment. And there's plenty of people there, way more than she's used to. And she's not even sure she could afford it. No, I might not be able to afford it. And in fact, I'm not sure I want to get rid of all my books and beloved stuff. I'm betting on imitating my 95 and 90 and 85-year-old friends who are still living in place in the very houses where they were when they were 75. I plan on taking as good care of myself as I can and doing what I can to care for the world so it lasts as long as I do. And I've gotten used to napping now. So I plan to nap as much as I can and call in Rip Van Winkle and see if he can't help me age well. And it's not just the world that's so sick. It's also quite a few of my friends, especially dear George, only in his late 60s, but within 3 months has gone from being perfectly able to manage his consulting business and take care of his house and all his affairs to being unable to drive or manage anything. The doctor is calling it early on brain damage. When Nancy arrives for a visit, he is vaping out on his girlfriend's porch and smiling his George grin and says, yes, he would like to go to the botanical gardens. So he and his cane walk very deliberately down the steps and toward my car. And it takes a long time to get in and settles in. And as we drive, at every stoplight and stop sign, he says, stop, we have to stop. And he's waving at all the people and smiling, a big smile, as he waves at people on the sidewalk and in the cars next to us. And when we get to the gardens, he gets out as slowly as he got into the car and walks very deliberately to the cafe where I buy coffee and cookies for each of us. And after our snack, we take a lovely walk into the garden. I go very slowly to keep up with Bob. And he's not interested, not able to focus on any of the woes of the world. So for these hours, I decide not to. And so for some hours later, when I take him back to his girlfriend's, I feel like I've had a little mini vacation. The 4th of July arrives, the day of Mendocino's funky parade that's gone on for 173 years. 20-some years, Nancy has completely avoided the parade. Mostly, well, 2 reasons. She's increasingly disliked crowds as she's gotten older, and also she has developed a greater and greater intolerance for the hypocrisy of the United States. How could it possibly talk about freedom in the light of the genocide of at least 100 million Native Americans, the ones who had the country, and we were the invaders, the
This lady
problem with
sees
your immigrants. And some 400 million who slaves that were enslaved at the start of the Civil War. This is not freedom. But this year, Nancy decides to join the Mendo for Palestine contingent. And she has a lovely time before the parade, helping plaster and tape posters on every side of all the 3 trucks. And she walks at the front of the parade, the front of the contingent, in front of the trucks, with the 2 people holding this long banner that says Free Palestine. She enjoys the camaraderie, sort of like what she had in Palestine, and she's gratified at how many people in the crowd cheer them and start in with them chanting, Free, free, free Palestine. The next day is July 5th. The 11th anniversary of the death of Nancy's husband, Floyd. At the end of the day, she decides to go sit on the deck and relax as the darkness settles in and robs the trees, the view of the trees, into total darkness. She decides to check her phone one last time before bed. News is the subject line of Diane's email. There is no way to cushion this. Our granddaughter, Maddie, died in her sleep unexpectedly. Maddie, 3 years, 10 months. Nancy wants to start screaming, but she's loath to disturb the peacefulness of the forest. So she goes inside and decides to go straight to bed. She'd like to curl down into the covers, into total oblivion, but there's no oblivion to this. No Rip Van Winkle sleep tonight. She sobs. Diane, oh my God. A friend since we were 12 years old. Oh my God, the paths we've walked. And I've watched you raise Maddie. 36 years I've known this child. And now she and her husband, James, wake to an empty apartment, silent, of Maddie's footfalls and giggles and running. Dear God, oh dear God, it's too goddamn much. Not one more dead child. No, not one more. Yay. Yay.
Let me say this. I am not licensed, but I have a PhD in what not to do in a relationship. I have a master's in how not to live a life. In 1997, I had been in recovery for this compulsive, addictive behavior in relationships for almost 7 years, and it had been a year and a half since I'd had a date. My addiction is toward romance that doesn't really serve me. All of the men who had real PhDs were gone, even the one who looked like Yoda, not to mention the one who looked like Clint Eastwood. Fortunately, I had a very compassionate therapist who taught me to soften around my pain, and I had Eugene Gendlin's focusing process, which taught me to be curious and compassionate with absolutely everything inside myself, including my inner critic. Some people tried to ignore the inner critic in the focusing process, or they set it aside. I found it much more effective to allow that bitch to scream her freaking head off. That process is beyond freeing. It's kind of like seeing someone in the grocery store who's throwing things and acting bitchy to the people in the checkout line. Such a person immediately loses her credibility, and that's the case with the inner critic. But I could watch my own inner critic unravel, throw off fit and then dissolve into tears, which doesn't usually happen in the grocery store. What a relief to find out she's just not an authority on anything at all. She just needs me to listen to her, and then she almost always dissolves into tears. This was a year and a half after Benjamin. You remember Benjamin, the guy before Freddie. I typically approached my inner life like a workaholic, but I was doing less than usual. I was going to my weekly inner work group. I was attending a couple of meetings per week, and I was doing focusing sessions in which I drop into my body to check how my body is feeling about what's going on in my life. I had just stopped seeing my shrink. I was not actively working the steps. My accountant kept trying to ask me out. So when I finally went out with him, he started talking about this hunk who lived with him, whom he said, oddly enough, never dated. I immediately devised a way to get that hunk Freddie, who was a handyman, over to my house. So when the stud showed up and stood on my red velvet couch to hang my mirror without bothering to take off his steel toe lace-up boots, I said nothing. Boy, have I changed. Just ask my ex, who had to take off his boots on the floor in the kitchen every day. But 30 years ago, I did not know how to spell boundary. On our first date, it was a straight shot from the restaurant to my house. Freddie's driving. Next thing I know, we're lost on a dirt road. He gave me that awful red Eddie Bauer plaid blouse for Christmas. I wear Pendleton plaid, and this was not a match on any level. My shrink, Dr. Rock, had suggested I go to Mensa to find men. I stopped seeing Dr. Rock and started seeing Freddie, who said, "You've made me self-conscientious." I was trying to let go of my judgments, my own brand of Southern Episcopalian Christian confusion. But then, when we went to see Titanic, Freddie said, "I wouldn't have gone back for those people who were drowning in the water. My own boat might have flipped over." My father would have marshaled a whole group of men, and they would all have gone back. I was disgusted. Not that I would have gone back myself. And he was short. Had he been a tall handyman who was stupid, who would have been completely useless if we had survived the sinking of the Titanic, I think I could have lived with it, I'm sorry to say. And frankly, he was not nearly as good looking as my accountant thought he was. Freddie may have been the one who called me after we broke up and said, "You're gonna die in your house." Or it could have been one of two serial killers who lived around the corner when the police told me, "Don't worry about it, ma'am. This happens all the time." I don't know that I want to admit there was a Freddie at all, but my gay friend Alec always says, "Do you remember Freddie and that blue sweater dress you wore to work?" I like to think that at this point, I took some time off dating. There was a year and a half of grieving Benjamin, which consisted primarily of crying in front of the mirror, which I thought would be healing. It most certainly was not. This right here will save you at least 1 year. Do not sit there and cry in front of the mirror. Mirrors only help in fairy tales. I was already crying in group therapy where crying did help, so I went back to meetings for relationship addiction a year after Benjamin left, and the pain had started to let up immediately. A short note about a lesson named Leonard, which I learned at this point. No, I'm not going to talk about Leonard. Eventually, I got a puppy. Although my golden Cocker Spaniel puppy started to feel the need for unconditional love immediately, and the need for touch when he wasn't at daycare, I was still an addict. I didn't know what I was up against, and unbeknownst to me, in the presence of a syringe, I would stick a needle into my neck. Then God sent me Rocky. God sent me a man named Rocky, not Sylvester Stallone, a man whose given legal first name was Rocky. I'd had that thing for Rocky Balboa all those years. Of course, I knew this was meant to be given his name, and wasn't it funny how God had waited so long? Here are some of the signs I missed in the first 3 hours of contact with Rocky. They're somewhat subtle. Actually, most of these flags appeared but were not noted in the first 10 minutes of contact. 1, I met him in a bar. 2, he told me he had stopped drinking 2 weeks ago. I thought that was great, by the way. 3, he wasn't going to any meetings. He was white knuckling it, which means trying to control the addiction. 4, he had just taken a course for macho men, and close friends had told me this was very definitely a cult. 5, he called me when I got home from the bar at 1:30 a.m. My best friend told me he called her 5 minutes later. 6, I went to his house the next day and I found it to be black, flat black, with flat black trim. He had painted it himself. He was in a state of mourning or warning. This is what I would call a sign I did not notice. This was at least 6 or 7 years into recovery around relationships, mind you. When they say in meetings, half measures will avail you nothing, that's exactly what they mean. I think the black paint was because he was in mourning and rage over his recent divorce, which of course is red flag number 7. He had just been through a divorce. 8, he had just broken it off with a fiance. 9, I observed that the interior of the house was decorated in deeply poverty-stricken adolescence. I didn't actually say that to myself. I said to myself, "Ooh, that's great. Oh, it's tiny. God, that's dirty. Oh, God, that's ugly." I didn't listen. 10, the TV was as big as the living room, and it was blaring NASCAR. If you like NASCAR, I guess that's not a red flag, but I don't. 11, he had a large Rottweiler. The dog was lying on the floor, not moving, because if he did, Rocky would hit him. 12, there was a 12th sign, but God knows what that was, and I don't think we really need it, given the first 11. These are all the red flags I missed or disregarded in the first 60 minutes of contact with this man. What did I say to myself when I saw all of these red flags? Wow, he's fascinating. Yes, I took that syringe and stuck the needle directly into my neck. All of this to say that love addiction and relationship addiction are progressive and can be dangerous. I do feel strongly now, as I mentioned, that we can usually know who someone really is in the first 3 hours of conversation, or perhaps with a casual perusal of the decor if we're really looking. If all else fails, give your rabbi the details. People say don't get hung up on the story. Are you fucking kidding me? The devil, Satan himself, is in the details. Tell your mother, your priest, or a stranger the details. Even my dog would have known this was not a good idea. Now, Rocky was in a cult for men who carry spears, which I guess is a step up from an ashram where people have hard-ons but aren't supposed to use them. This is not the form of progress, not perfection that we're looking for. In this cult, the men wear face paint and body paint while carrying stakes half naked. The teacher said that the men should hang with the men and the women should hang with the women because the women know just what to do with the women, which is pretty much stand around and tell stories and cry about what has happened to them in relationships with the men. And men, he said, are cruel and have less emotional intelligence than most animals, so don't try to talk to them, to paraphrase. Hand your man a steak, or I believe he said, throw him a steak. Men, he said, can barely remember the last 3 things that happened to them. Hand them some meat. I never intended to report any of this to you or to anyone else, but given the state in which we find ourselves on this planet, I think it is necessary for us to be as honest as possible about what we have done wrong. We are going to need a gigantic leap in consciousness just to survive the year. And none of this insidious, infernal, positive thinking is getting us anywhere. 8 months into the relationship, we're in the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Rocky's son is about 11. I see Rocky outside on the deck. I'm looking through the glass, and Rocky takes the kid by the collar and slams the child against the glass. He slammed him this hard. I have no idea whether anyone else noticed. I didn't notice whether anyone else saw it. The child's face went. The child had stepped onto the deck without permission. Rocky didn't realize I could see them through the glass, and I doubt it would have made any difference. Here's the man I'm thinking is going to love me for the rest of my life because he said he would, who's funny and fantastic. But what if I go to the grocery store? I was thinking we'd have a baby, of course, and how would I protect my baby when I went to the grocery store for 20 minutes? I was making plans about how I would hover over the gray stroller in the hall of the black house and trying to figure out how I could ever leave the baby with him to go to the store. I called him while crying and said, "If you're going to hit your child, I have to leave." He very reluctantly agreed that he'd stop. I think now that I should probably have called Child Protective Services. It sickens me to think that I didn't leave. Rocky was very charismatic, and within months of joining the steak cult, he had become the regional steak leader. When the men saw him, they would shout, "Rocky, Rocky." In the end, his cult leader saved my ass. I stood up at the seminar for women that I was attending just to please Rocky and described how he had broken a date to do a cult-related meeting at the last minute and how he had told me I should babysit his son and the dog. The cult leader said, "Why would you want to be with a man like that?" I said, "He's fun." The whole room full of women groaned. Oh, this is in front of the women's auxiliary of this cult. They have all drunk the Kool-Aid, and even they knew better. I'm not reporting the name of said cult or more of what they taught because I signed some Nazi-esque agreement on the way into the seminar when volunteer minions were standing around not letting anybody into the hall to sign said vow of secrecy. This meant they were going to do stuff I would want to tell someone. I'd told Rocky I'd do the seminar, and I had traveled for hours to be there. I signed the damn agreement. I told Rocky what his cult leader had said about breaking the date, and he thought his God had said this relationship was not ordained. It was over. Maybe he was just angry. He would roll around in the bed violently at night. I'd been cutting him some slack because I needed him, like I needed meth or a needle in my neck, and because he said that he'd been molested by a priest when he was a child. I realized recently that although I was comfortable with anger, I forgot to be afraid when it came to men. One night I said to myself as I stared at him sitting in my living room, I have done all of this inner work for this. Rats moved into the wall. I ignored my inner dialogue. I took the rats as a sign something was wrong. I went to hang out with the women in his cult. What did the women say? Take him a steak. And I did. It worked, but fortunately only for a day. We immediately started discussing the windows in his tiny black house, which wasn't actually his, but he had some plan to fix it up and make money on it. I digress. We disagreed about how we would fix the house up once I moved in. I wanted charming windows that would look old. He wanted ugly little windows. I said, I need a partner, but it wasn't even my house. I wonder sometimes if I should let his son know that he might benefit from a brain scan at some point. You know, some forms of brain injury can cause some people to be violent. He may be in jail. It took me 8 months to put that needle down. Here's the thing. There's some level of existential comedy in the fact that I was more suicidal after this breakup, ostensibly about this guy, than I had ever been in my life. When things get painful now, I remember missing someone does not necessarily make any sense whatsoever. I felt suicidal over the worst person I ever dated in my life to that point. I have learned to have feelings while knowing not all of them make a lot of sense. And many of them are, of course, just related to wanting warmth from my mother. When I was about 12, there was the back of that enormous mansion in front of the house with 9 elegant garages and 9 well-polished antique cars. And Piedmont Street behind the house, where there were washing machines and dryers on the porch and rusty cars on blocks in the yard. That's when I started saying to myself, I'm going to marry an alcoholic from Piedmont Street and take care of him. Now there's an affirmation. That seems to be the one that stuck. By the way, I still feel ashamed of how screwed up I was. The whole thing's very embarrassing, and I wouldn't be saying any of this if I weren't trying to help you. Here I am talking about the worst person I ever dated in my life up to that point, the most humiliating, just to help you. But I'm not going to talk about Leonard. People say, did you turn down the nice guys? Listen, honey, as you can tell, I tried dating different kinds of men. I did. And as I have said, by the time you're my age, all the nice guys have tried to cheat on their wives with you. After the breakup with Rocky, my new female focusing partner listened every week to a stubborn felt sense in my body of a large black stake in the middle of my heart. She kept the blue and white speckled pie plate my mother had wanted to give to my niece and had reluctantly given to me. Having forgotten her name completely, I want to say that if you were at one time my focusing partner, and if you or anyone you know has that pie plate, I want it back. My mother would be furious. I started working the program more rigorously with the woman I was most frightened of in the room. Having made an Excel spreadsheet of all my character defects down the left side with the people in my family and all of my relationships past and present listed across the top, it became perfectly obvious that turning myself inside out, which would eventually make me angry, was one of my larger problems. So at this point, I'd been in this program for essentially relationship addiction about 7 years, and I'd had a number of slips named Benjamin, Freddie, Rocky, and damn it, there was a guy named Sequoia. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about Leonard. He was a psychologist who was teaching in Europe. He had a problem with holes in his underwear. When I finished the steps, my sponsor said, I think you're grieving the entire idea of marriage. I know now that an addict can only deal with one day at a time. This is far more clear thinking than I could handle. A sponsor with this much sobriety, I did not need. I fired her immediately. This, ladies and gentlemen, was a mistake, but you saw that coming. Recovery has had everything to do with allowing myself to feel the pain rather than smiling on top of it and continuing to tell God through my magical thinking affirmations and vision boards and such, how to fix my life and fix it now, God damn it. Telling God what to do is not such a smart idea. However, I do have one piece of advice for God. Next time, don't give anyone free will. I made a lot of mistakes dating, but let's face it, that's the problem. Created a bunch of toddlers running around down here with nuclear weapons. You didn't think this through, did you?
Yay! Yay! Yay!
Mommy, is Mittens going to be okay? The vet is going to take very good care of him, baby. But is he going to be okay? It's Sunday on 4th of July weekend. We're driving to the emergency vet with our 6-year-old daughter, her brand new 12-week-old kitten in tow. She's been asking for this kitten for years. Bass is Daddy's cat, and Alto is your cat, and Treble is dead now, and she wasn't my cat either, and I don't have a cat of my own, and that's not fair. Well, I like having just 2 cats for now, Roxy. Kittens are a lot of work. Alto and Bass, they're older, and they wouldn't like having a young kitten bothering them all the time. The baby'd have nobody to play with. My husband Adam coming in as the voice of reason. But I want a kitten. They are so cute, and it's not fair. Adam held out as long as he could. I reminded him during couples counseling that, hey, we could just get 2 kittens if you're that concerned about the kitten not having a playmate. But he wasn't very impressed with that idea. Then Roxy started asking for a tarantula or a python, and he suddenly came around on the kitten front. So yesterday we drove out to a shelter in the countryside and we met a dapper young kitten named Sterling Cooper. He's a gray tabby with big feet and white fur in his ears. Yeah, his foster family said he didn't eat much today. The adoption volunteer mentions as she places the kitten on the floor in front of my daughter, who is instantly and irrevocably in love. Oh my goodness, he's the cutest kitten I've ever seen. Can we keep him? Can we keep him? Can we keep him? Can we? Can we? Can we keep him? I ignore this little part of me that wants to ask some follow-up questions about his appetite. I mean, hey, it was probably just a stressful day given transport for the adoption event and everything, right? Right. His new name is Mittens Tiberius Sterling Ginger Wynn. Now, this kitten does not have mittens. This kitten is not orange. And when we get home, this kitten is still not eating. We set him up in an extra large carrier with a kitten-sized litter box we fashioned out of a piece of Tupperware, a little tray of kibble, a shallow bowl of water. He pees, he plays, he sleeps, and around 8 p.m. I hear the sound that haunts every cat owner around the world. He pukes up half of a cat toy, tag included. It doesn't match any of the toys in our house. So I figure, oh, mystery solved. Surely he'll start eating again now. His energy seems fine. He's talkative, playful, taking naps in this tiny gerbil bed my husband bought him because the smallest cat bed they had at PetSmart would probably have fit him, his litter mates, and his mother. I love Mittens so much. Can I sleep with him forever? Can I show Grammy? Can I show all my friends? I try to savor her enjoyment of this moment, but my concerns are mounting. We set up a camera in her room so we could watch him overnight to see if and when he started eating. I wonder about moving his crate into the laundry room just in case things don't go well. He eats a kibble out of my hand, but spits it out immediately. Blech. We put Roxy to bed and I debrief my husband. Hopefully his appetite perks up now. If he doesn't start eating by tomorrow, we should probably get him seen. I don't want to worry Roxy unnecessarily, but I also don't want her to be blindsided if the kitten doesn't make it. She has a tendency toward anxiety, which makes a lot of sense if you've seen any of the branches from our respective family trees. My husband and I have developed coping mechanisms for our anxiety, equally maladaptive and diametrically opposed. I deal with my anxiety by planning for every possible contingency and continuously running the most upsetting scenarios so I'm not surprised by anything. He deals with his by staying optimistic and or not thinking about it, which looks a whole lot like avoiding his feelings to me, but our therapist says he's actually quite disciplined and it's a skill. Needless to say, this has caused some differences in opinion about how much information we should share with Roxy and when. For instance, I shared what I thought was age-appropriate information about my father's smoking and cancer diagnosis a few years ago, just as she was processing his death, and she was trying to understand what cancer even was. But this led to her being terrified of smoke in any form, and treating people she saw smoking like monsters who could infect her with cancer with a single glance. No, like Aunt Laura. But she's not smoking right now, baby. She's done. She left it outside. The smoke can't hurt you. Adam, the picture of reassurance. Well, I don't know, babe. If you think about secondhand smoke, I start to explain because I want to make sure she has accurate information. Stacy! Sometimes he has a point. But is Mittens going to be okay? Back to today. We're still in the car. Mittens is in a pink cat carrier we borrowed from the rescue, giving us a piece of his mind. Meow, meow, meow. The gerbil bed that Adam bought is so small it actually fits in the tiny carrier. The urgent care vet did an x-ray, looked at the bag of puke Adam brought with him, charged us $1,000, and sent us to the emergency vet for an ultrasound and overnight monitoring. And I'm over here not even knowing there was urgent care for cats because I'm learning all sorts of new things today. She keeps asking, and I don't know how to answer her because I don't know if he's going to be okay. But I also don't want her to panic. But I also don't trust myself to tell the truth. They have really good veterinarians there, baby. They're going to take a picture of his tummy with sound waves. Isn't that cool? They're just going to see if there are any pieces of the toy left inside his tummy. But Roxy's smart. Roxy can tell I am not answering her question. But is he going to be okay? I hope so, baby. They gave him some medicine to help with the pukey feeling. They gave him fluids, even some sugar through his IV. It's all going to help his tummy ache so much. He's going to feel so much better, babe. But is he going to be okay? Yes, Roxy. Adam finally chimes in from the front seat. He's going to be okay. Oh, good. Can we get McDonald's on the way? I'm hungry and I want a toy. Adam and I make eye contact briefly. He's willing to tell the lie to stop her spiral. And it's not really a lie, is it? It's optimism. But I'm terrified that he'll be wrong. In moments like these, I see the utility of prayer, of appealing to a higher power. It would be so much easier to just teach her to let go and let God. His eye is on the sparrow, so it's definitely on Mittens, the kitten who has no mittens and also eats things he should not. But we're trying to raise her in this pluralistic, faith-neutral household. That's a mouthful, right? Where she learns about Christianity along with all the other religions, and she has the freedom to choose one that feels good or choose none at all when she's older. I don't want to indoctrinate her into belief or into atheism. I want her to have the agency that I was denied, but how does that hold up when we're driving to the emergency vet? She wants comfort, but all I have on offer is this hard-won nuance that I have difficulty articulating even to myself. So I think through, I pull up all those spiritual but not religious tools I've encountered over the years. I don't really like those for this either. What would meditation even look like in this scenario? Okay, Roxy, just visualize a white light surrounding Mittens and think about him eating and pooping out the mysterious things that are holding up his system. The mysterious things that may be poop or they may be more toy, and there may still be more toy in his tummy, but we don't really know. Well, that wouldn't work at all. Maybe I can do a speed run on deity work before bed. Which gods and goddesses are associated with cats? Oh, Freya is a Nordic goddess. Her association with cats comes from her sleigh. She has a sleigh like Santa, but instead of reindeer, she has giant cats, and they pull her over the ice and snow. Would you like to light a candle to her? But no, deity work still squicks me out a little bit. I know it's meaningful for so many people, but I wasted so much time nursing this limerent fixation on Jesus that I don't want to teach her to worship Freya either, or Bastet, or Hecate, or, well, I mean, maybe we can worship Hecate. I'm mostly agnostic, but I'm also witchy as hell. Like I said, nuance. I settle on having her make a very sincere, intention-infused get well card if it comes up again. That feels tangible enough for a 6-year-old, right? Something more than wishing, but less than setting up an altar on the coffee table I'll have to cover up if my mom comes over. Oh no, Adam says nervously. I lied. What if he's not okay? I know, but you gave her what she needed in the moment. The vet just said we needed to wait and see. Yeah, he's so little that even doing an endoscopy might do more harm than good. The doctor said he's actually closer to 8 weeks, not 12. Well, he might be okay, babe. And if he isn't, we can just talk to her. I mean, you really thought he would be okay, right? You really hoped? It's a long night. The doctor's supposed to call at 6 a.m. with the results of the ultrasound, but she doesn't. So we call around 10, and it's still wait and see. He still has something in his stomach. It's probably the rest of the toy. He still hasn't pooped, and he still isn't eating. He's a bright boy, though, the tech says over the phone. Yeah, he's telling us what he thinks. What time can you come get him? Meow, meow, meow. I can hear him in the background. Yeah, let's give him a little more time with the fluids. Can you try an enema too? The doctor said that sometimes that jump starts their appetites if the poop is what's slowing things down. Sure, hun, I'll check with the doctor. Meow, meow, meow. We've paid for the hospital through 6 p.m. So my thought is to keep him there until 5:59 so they can continue with the glucose and hopefully to give the enema some time to kick in so I don't feel like I'm driving home with an adorable little time bomb full of shit and all my daughter's hopes and dreams. I debrief Adam again. He's handled the vet visits in person, so I'm fielding the phone calls. If he's still eating, I don't want him back yet. If he crashes, we don't know how to get his blood sugar up. We're chatting over WhatsApp while he's working. Yeah, but the vet seemed pretty comfortable. We can always syringe feed him if it comes down to it, or take him back to the ER vet. Do you want to pay for another night? We have blown past the extraordinary measures budget we had about this kitten's care. This kitten who doesn't have insurance yet because he's so new. This kitten Adam and I don't really have an emotional connection to yet. But we do have an emotional connection to our daughter, who has been fixating on her first cat for 2 years. She was already in love. She just hadn't met him yet. No, I don't want to pay for another night, but I don't want him sleeping in Roxy's room if we bring him home. Yeah, I don't want him to wake up to something upsetting either. Let's just bring the kitten home. If he doesn't start eating again by morning, we'll take him back. Sometimes I can be the optimist. And sometimes he can admit he's frightened. And we're learning to hold each other through it, whichever coping mechanism we've reached for the day. I call the clinic again. Mittens still isn't eating. He still hasn't pooped. I finally get through to the vet. Yeah, the radiologist feels that we need to see if it'll pass on its own. But it's a centimeter long. Is it reasonable to expect him to pass that? He's not even a foot long yet, right? So 2.5 inches feels like a lot given his body size. Now, I know it's technically 2.54 inches, but I don't say that because I don't want to seem neurotic. Yeah, well, there's no guarantee, but letting him pass it, seeing if he can pass it, is less dangerous than a procedure at this point. Understood, and he's still not eating. Can you try another dose of the appetite stimulant? I can send you home with one if it's needed, but listen, he is bright and active, and I think we just need to get him home. Meow, meow, meow! I don't know why they are all calling him Bright, but I wonder if she thinks he might eat better out of the hospital with fewer distractions, and she just can't say that for some reason. Eventually, we do bring him home. And eventually, he eats some wet food off of my finger. Eventually, he demolishes a whole can of kitten food. And another. And another. And eventually, I find an enormous shit in the middle of Roxy's bed. It turns out the ratio of poop to body size is very different for kittens. Like I said, I'm really learning a lot. A few weeks pass. Mittens has settled in. He and Bass are fast friends. Alto is grudgingly accepting his existence. Meow, says he. Says she. Now, this is also the extent of her conversations with Bass, so I think it means he's an official member of the Clowder. Mommy, let's go outside and watch the bats come out. She drags me outside. I think about objecting. I think about bedtime, but instead I sink into the magic of a summer night. Mommy, I see a star there. And there. There aren't any bats yet. Mommy, hold your hands together like this. So I do. Shining, shimmering in the night, shining sky, shining star in the sky so bright, shimmering, shining in the night. And then, Mommy, you hold your wish really tight, and then you hold it up to the star. Hold up your wish, Mommy, and then let it go. It's like praying to the stars.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you all for coming here and being a part of our show tonight. And thanks to the performers. And good night, everybody.